made from stardust, so shine.
Peace and blessings, family, and welcome to Labors of Love podcast. We are here to inspire, uplift, and enlighten. Each episode, we will be hearing from Black midwives, doulas, and other traditional childbirth supporters who have dedicated their lives to being of service to Black mothers and families in all aspects of the motherhood journey. This evening, I have the privilege of speaking with Candice Dormon. Candice is a wife, boy mom, and entrepreneur. Based in New Haven, Connecticut, she is the CEO and founder of Ekow Body, a body care and wellness company focused on soothing discomfort and fuss-free self-care. Candice believes that sometimes body butter is more than just body butter. Sometimes it makes space for people to be heard so they can get what they need. Ekow is pronounced Ekow and means boy born on Thursday in the naming tradition of Ghana. The Ekow Body suite of products provide relief for pain, dry, itchy skin, discomfort from eczema, as well as mood-boosting aromatherapy to inspire and focus positive energy. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Hello. It's always so weird to hear somebody say those things about you. So thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Absolutely. I can't wait to dig into it because there are so many layers to you. And I am excited that we finally have an opportunity to have this conversation and have it live. So.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really thrilled to be here, be a part of this conversation as sort of a complimentary voice to the really important conversation that you're having with your community. So thank you so much for inviting me. Excellent. I'm really excited.
So I only have you for a little while, so we're just going to jump right on into this. I always like starting the conversation with just an understanding of kind of the foundation that we typically have as a society around childbirth. So what were some of your messages about childbirth prior to becoming a mom yourself, or, maybe higher learning or whatever would have exposed you to some additional information?
Sure. I was thinking about this a little bit in preparation for tonight, and I come from a very matriarchal family. There are a lot of women in my family. My mom is the oldest of 4 girls. I'm the oldest of 3 girls, and they're just like girls peppered around everywhere, right? So the voice of moms has always been really strong in my family, and I couldn't pinpoint a very specific sort of message that I remember growing up, but I do remember when I was having a when I was pregnant, I was getting ready. The sort of messaging that I got from my mom was about getting through it, right? Like, it's going to hurt. We just have to get through it. You're going to be fine. You'll be able to deal with it, but it's going to hurt and it's going to be hard, right? And I remember being a little bit scared because one of my aunts, she had 4 kids, all without any epidural or without any sort of pain medication. And then my other aunt had a ton of complications and several miscarriages before. So there's a little bit of fear wrapped around. It's sort of it seems like a great idea until it's time to go to the hospital. Right. How are we going to get this baby out? But more importantly, I would say, is once I had my son, I, again, tied to this sort of messaging that it was just going to be hard, this sort of callous preparing me for how hard it was going to be, specifically around breastfeeding. And my mom came when I was having a hard time, and she would scratch my back so that it would distract the pain of breastfeeding, because she was I was like, is it supposed to hurt? She said, yeah, it's supposed to hurt. Don't think about it. And then she would just scratch cuff me with a brush or something. And so I guess the overall thing I'm trying to say is that there was just a lot of messaging around how hard it was going to be, which made it pretty scary.
Gotcha. So were there any, did you do any like childbirth education classes or pick up any books or anything to just kind of counter that message? Or was that, what was the preparation going
Yeah,
in?
so we signed up for I'm pretty sure we signed up for a labor course, and that was, I think, it was a full day, and we got a tour around the hospital and a full day of sort of like explaining what the labor process was going to be like, and what they sort of walk you through. I had my kids at Yale, and so they kind of walk you through the where you come in, what they're going to ask you for, what you're going to need, where you go, who you ask for, like all of that stuff, which of course doesn't matter what they tell you, you don't remember any of that when
Right.
the time comes.
Right.
But it was a lot about the labor process and then a little bit about the going home process. But there wasn't a lot of like, I didn't take an extended class over any period of time. And then I thought that I was going to get a doula, and then it sort of fell through. I sort of was trying to reach out to someone, and it didn't really work out. And I was just not in I did it after I already had, so it would have been a postpartum doula.
Uh-huh.
And I think she was new. I mean, there were just a lot of misses, and I just wasn't in a position to be like chasing after. It would have been better if I had known to look for her before, right? Like before all the crazy and the sleepless nights and all that stuff, it would have been great to have found a doula so that I know who to call once the time came.
And that's excellent wisdom to share, just knowing that, what the need is, and that even after the actual birth, like this is still just such a vulnerable time of transition and getting used to this new human. So
Mhm.
definitely to know beforehand and have that support, like, to have that wisdom, to be able to share that.
I didn't even know what I don't think I knew what a doula was
Mhm.
until my I think it was the new pediatrician mentioned, because she knew the doula, but I really don't think I knew what a doula was. I'd heard of a midwife, but I
Mhm.
didn't use one.
Mhm.
And I just went the traditional route. My OB ended up being the older sister of a woman that I went to high school with. And
Oh,
so that was the only I'm not from New Haven, and
yeah.
so it would have just been picking out of a hat. And
Right.
so literally I was like, "Oh, you're her sister? Yes, you." Like, it was the only sort of thing to connect
Familiarity.
to.
Yes.
And then she ended up being great.
Oh, good.
But the second time around when I had my second son, I
Mhm.
did want to try the midwife route.
Mhm.
I still didn't go for a doula, and probably because I didn't have that connection with the one I tried to connect to. You have like these things get in the way, and unless someone really pushes you, you go, "Oh, okay, that wasn't going to work out anyway," and then you
Mhm.
just sort of rely on something that you know.
Right.
So again, looking back, I wish I had really looked for a birth doula, and then a postpartum doula would have been great.
Mhm.
But I did go for a midwife, and it was cool. But I think the overall experience of having to meet all of the doctors and
Mm.
all of the midwives and the team throughout the entire time just didn't feel like you got to know any one person, and then you're not sure who you're going to have on the day. So I I can't say that it was amazing or it was that much better.
Mhm.
But I'm glad that I had both experiences.
Right. And there's definitely, that wisdom in being able to have the contrast, right? You had your hospital experience, and then you had your hospital experience with a midwife. And I definitely can relate to that, because it's such to me, a sacred process. You want the people in the space to feel familiar, feel like
Mhm.
family. So I totally understand where, when you're like kind of dropped into a pool, and it's like, well, here, meet this person. On your next visit, you're going to meet this person. And, if I'm not available, maybe. So then it's kind of like up in the air. It's a gamble who you're going to get when you go into labor. So I definitely understand that, because I was very clear and fortunate enough that I had the same midwife. Like, I never got into
Mm.
the pool, but I can only imagine. So did you actually work with the midwife that you initially kind of connected with?
I don't even really remember now. And my son is not that old. He's only 5. And it's interesting to sort of think about the arc of childbirth over, say, the last, like, even the last 50 years, right?
Mhm.
I had friends who had used, I didn't know anything about doulas. I had friends who'd used midwives, but there's still this idea of like, oh, but you live next to Yale, you should just go to Yale, right?
Mhm.
Like this sort of like, we didn't even consider a home birth,
Mhm.
right? And you just think you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do, right? You think that there's a thing you're supposed to do.
Mhm.
And it's really great that now people are learning more about doulas and the different, like how long you can have a doula. Like,
Yeah.
I know some extended postpartum doulas, right?
Yeah.
But there's more information now, and it's not as awkward to say out loud that you were considering, some sort of alternative birth or some
Right.
a doula, or I guess just overall something alternative to a doctor, right? Especially
Mhm.
when you live near to a world-renowned hospital. People are like,
Right.
why would you choose anything else, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And then so again, the arc of it, a long time ago, everybody was using midwives, right?
Mhm.
Probably doulas as well.
Mhm.
Then we went to the hospitals. Now we're sort of coming back around to this, you know, low medical intervention, like
Mhm.
it's the goal.
Mhm.
But it kind of feels like a luxury. It seems to me like a luxury to be able to have a team, a doula, a midwife, like a whole team of people who are going to come to your house, be on call. Like it's a really interesting place for women, especially young women, to be right now, trying to figure out where they want to be and what the choices say about them without it being their intention.
Right, right. And I truly appreciate you making that point because in this space, it somewhat is a luxury, right? Because
Mhm.
there's costs involved that typically are out of pocket.
Mhm.
In some areas, you can have your insurance does cover it, depending on the state. Will cover a home birth and possibly a portion of doula services, but that is not the norm.
Right. And I don't
So
think people know that.
you're right, and there needs to be more information about that. And that's definitely a good point because I know I had my children in the DC area. So what I can speak to with that, like I know we had, Care First and they covered everything. And typically a home birth is less expensive than a hospital birth.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's like at that time, my youngest is 8. So at that time, like a home birth was like $6,000, right? And then
Wow.
you might pay an additional 1,500 for the birth assistant slash doula. But compared to a hospital birth, which is like $10,000.
I think
So and that's if
more.
there's no complications, right? Like that's
Right.
if you just kind of get in and get out, you're not staying any extra days or anything. So it's upwards, of $10,000. So just that comparison. But if you're paying for it out of pocket and have to be reimbursed for like a home birth, then yeah, we do get into the area of a luxury because
Mhm.
who really has that as you're planning and preparing for a baby and all of the other expenses involved. So I think that's an amazing point, and it speaks to somewhat of the advocacy that's necessary to kind of make sure that these bills get passed so that doula services are covered,
Included.
included in the insurance, or the state might subsidize some of it, something. But we definitely need it accessible. And also to the point of how we're kind of returning, like there's this cycle, right, of you know home births were the norm, then the medical, Western medicine brought in obstetrics, and which there's a place for everything.
Right.
And then, here we are moving back into more what I would consider mother-centered care, where we're looking at midwives and we want to have them in the home and make it more of a natural process again. But these conversations definitely, shed light on that and just the options that are available. I'm always about like, it's not what you choose, it's that you have a choice and what
Right.
your choices are. So
Right.
yeah, that's amazing.
What I
So
was thinking just now is as a person in my age bracket, right? My mom is a baby boomer
mhm.
and I'm from New York City, and I'm pretty sure we got some assistance, welfare, or whatever it was called at the time. And so one of the things I wanted to say about the sort of information sharing is I remember we were preparing for how much it was going to cost, and my mom's response was, wait, what? How much does it cost? Like, she doesn't remember having to pay for any of that.
Okay.
Right. So if you think about being in a different socioeconomic status now as an adult than perhaps your parents were or your mom was when they were having you, the gap of information. So we talk about sharing information and knowing that you have a choice. Sometimes the people you look to help bridge that gap of information don't have the relevant information to help you at the moment. I have several friends who were like, their parents also, their moms are like, what do you mean you have to pay for it? And they're like, we have to pay for it, or we have this deductible, or we have, you know what I mean? Like, we're making sure that we have money to cover the bill. And it was just so foreign. It was just so foreign to my mom. She was like, I can't help you.
Yes, and that's again why we need to have these conversations, and the fact that it isn't across the board either. So that, wherever you may be, you might have different experience or different access to opportunities than other places. So yes, definitely, a conversation that needs to continue, and if there's somebody out there who knows of like a central database that would have just something for that. I know we have doulas that listen and contribute, but that would be valuable information. So how has your experience in motherhood impacted your entrepreneurial side? I know you've had businesses and podcasts and things of that nature. So how was your experience and your continued experience influenced that?
So the thing that I found most challenging when I was having my kids and sort of moving through the stages with them is this feeling of isolation and this feeling of aloneness, right? Again, as open as we are, and we're even talking 8 years ago, we weren't as open on social media or like those sorts of things. There's a reason why these conversations are still happening, because it's still not normal for people to be talking about such personal information. And the gap of information just gets wider and wider because everybody is dealing with their own issues that they think are special and unique to them, right? Like, oh, we're so special. And feeling really alone. And I also felt that way, especially if I was having an experience that I couldn't really share with my mom, or she really didn't understand what was going on. And so I just spent a lot of time talking out loud because it helped me, and was very surprised to hear that lots of other people were also feeling the same way. And it is one of the things that I'm really grateful for, this idea that I'm not all that unique. We're not all that unique, that these experiences, especially through motherhood, especially as young Black mothers, it is very similar across the board. And while there are some specifics based on where you are or how old you are, those sorts of things, there are also a string of things that really bind us, that are mutual experiences and that we don't get a chance to talk about. So I talk a lot to people. That ended up leading me into starting a podcast. When I was home, I used to work outside of the home, right? I hate to create that divide. I used to work outside of the home, and then I became a full stay-at-home mom when I had my second son. And I just had so much stuff that I needed to get off of my own chest that I started talking about it. And that's where my motherhood and lifestyle podcast started. And that lasted for about 3 years. And then I got tired and had to give myself space to not want to do it anymore. Right. And it's okay to not want to do something anymore and to move on to your next thing.
Absolutely.
But again, you get tied up in what you're doing, and then you feel compelled to keep going even if you don't want to. And that just always makes me think about how much we put on ourselves, how much weight women women of color, Black women, we put on ourselves to keep doing to save face or to show face or to, make sure that people think we're like holding it together when we may be falling apart inside. Right?
Yes, that is.
And that it's okay to change your mind or to pivot or to pause or to take a break, and to do so without having to explain every single bit of it to everyone. So that's where I am in my space now. I did move into childcare. I had a home daycare for a few years. So when we think about all the ways that we support moms and mothers, that business helped me to be able to stay at home with my children and to be able to create a warm and loving environment for other moms to feel safe, for other families to feel safe to leave their kids in, right? But then I got to this point where I had a neighbor was bringing my kids home from school. I didn't know any of the teachers. I didn't know what was going on at school, because then I was stuck in the daycare, or like I was trying to take 6 daycare kids on a walk, 5 blocks away to try and pick up my kids. It just stopped doing for me what I needed it to do for me. And again, I had to be in this position of, this is not working for me. And as much as I want to be helpful to others, I still have to think about myself. So that was the daycare. And now I'm all about self-care, right? I'm like, I gotta put me first.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes. That is a consistent lesson, definitely, in motherhood and just in life in general. And I appreciate you articulating that in a way that we all go through it. No, you're not alone. No one, you're not alone in this.
You're not special.
Right. But to hear somebody else say it, then it's like,
right. So now I'm all about self-care and finding a way to take care of yourself that I say fuss-free, right? That feels good to you. Not everyone is. I am not necessarily like a, sparkly unicorn, like spa all the time. Like all of these things are great. And if I get a chance to do it, then wonderful. But there is a space for this sort of fuss-free, take care of myself as I need to, as I want to, in a way that feels good and doesn't feel like additional pressure. And so that's what I'm focused on right now. And I do that mainly through body butter and body oils. We also leverage the power of CBD in our products, which I learned a lot about in the last several years. The benefits of cannabis, of marijuana on one hand, right? As you start to think about its medical uses and its help for stress that people have known for a long time, pain and stress relief. But in like anxiety relief and help with sleeping, like all of these things that mothers typically go through a lot in silence, right, on their own. And it's not okay to use anything to help, right? You're supposed to just bear with it. Now, of course, there's a whole lot that goes, a whole lot of history tied to marijuana and cannabis use. But now with the ability to use CBD, which is a similar, I call it like a sister. It's a sister to marijuana. It has it like looks like her, sounds like her, but isn't exactly, right? So you get all of the pain relief, stress release, and anxiety relief. It's also really good for your skin. All of that without the bits that make you not be able to pay attention during the day, right? Or like if you need that kind of relief when you have to be on when your kids are awake, like CBD is probably your best bet, right? Your go-to. And then people might know that you can take it orally, right? You can take tinctures, you can take gummies, that sort of thing. But there are also really great benefits with using it topically, because it goes straight through your skin into your bloodstream and gives you relief right where you need it, right? So I use it a lot as pain relief on any tension headaches, stress, those sort of tension in your neck, this sort of like all day, you're just like, what's going to happen, right? And then particularly for any sort of like skin, something like eczema. My son has eczema. And I will tell you, as a quick aside, just the other day he had a flare up. We think that maybe we're just learning he's allergic to mango. And
Okay.
you might know with eczema, it's sort of always there under, it's always like underlying, and then something triggers it. And it just came out of nowhere, I guess, from this mango smoothie we just had.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the ongoing trauma of motherhood is when some stuff happens, you don't know what to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I feel like parenting and motherhood is a series of near misses. My son cut his foot tonight, right? Like it's just a series of ongoing near misses, and you just have to get through, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like over and over again trauma every day.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think is so powerful is when you find something that you know will work for a specific issue that doesn't come up often, but when it comes up, it's a freaking problem, right?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so to see your kid in this scenario, like just welts appear, right? He was like tearful. You don't know what to do. I'm like, oh, I have it. Like I have the thing. I don't have to run to Walgreens. I don't have to like hope that the thing I got was from like 6 months ago from the doctor is not expired. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to in that moment run through all the scenarios. I can just reach for something that I know works.
Yeah.
And if it works for my kid, like that's all I need. That's all I need to know. Like that's all the stress relief that I need is
Yeah.
knowing that I have something that works. And so that's where I say that body butter is not just body butter, right? Like it is relief beyond
Peace of mind.
anything, right? Like just peace of mind.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So was that your motivation around how you like formulated your products? Did you
Yeah.
choose to, source your ingredients, natural
Mhm.
ingredients and things of that nature?
Yeah, I was finding things that would work for him, right? I actually started with a natural deodorant I created. My husband's from Ghana and we went on a trip and I came back with like lots of shea butter.
Yeah.
And I was looking for something to do with it, and just happened to at that time be struggling with my deodorant. I've been using a store deodorant probably since I was 15, right? The same blue one with the pink powder on it, right?
Right.
Like you just, it's a decision you make once and then you never change and
Right.
you don't think about it. But one day I was in the shower and I couldn't get it off. What the heck? Like, why won't it come off? And that sent me on this sort of like research of like, why doesn't it come off? And as soon as you put in like, why won't the deodorant come off? It's like, oh, let me tell you why.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, in the rabbit hole. Mhm.
Exactly. So that made me realize that I could create things for myself. Again, this idea of when you have more information, you can make better informed choices. And I did not know that natural deodorant was a thing and was a thing that like could be for me.
Right.
Right? Like when I think of hemp, my products have hemp oil in it. When I think about hemp, I think about those stores in the strip mall. All the clothing are like khaki colored, right? It's all saps.
Maybe
It's
like
like cards with pressed flowers on the front. Like that is the place where hemp and natural deodorant goes. And like it's not for us, right?
Right.
It's not for us. And I didn't know that it could be for me too. And I think that's with all of these things, right? Doulas can be for me.
Yes.
Bin wives can be for me. Hemp can be for me. CBD can be for me. Like people have found things that work. And sometimes we as individuals and we as a community and as the Black community can be resistant or fearful of change. And in this case, when we're talking doulas and motherhood, like we shouldn't be fearful of it. We should be reminded, like we probably started it, right?
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a nice way to kind of close things out. But I
Yeah.
truly appreciate you coming in and just, having this conversation. I enjoyed it. Your products look amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
And everything. They're gorgeous. And I love the boxes. So amazing gift idea. Baby showers,
Baby
mothers,
showers, moms. And before, I would be remiss if I didn't say that, so the products come in both hemp and hemp plus CBD, right? And so there's still ongoing research. The suggestion right now is not to use CBD if you are nursing, right? So if you are actively nursing, don't tell them I told you to do it, because I did not tell you to do that. Wait till you are done nursing, right? Or if you've chosen not to nurse, then this is something that you could use. I think it's really great for that sort of like that tension of holding the baby with a bottle, that kind of like hunched over situation. Definitely talk to your lactation nurse about making sure you get that baby up on a pillow so you're not, you don't end up with a hunchback. But yes, CBD in all of its forms, tinctures, gummies, and topically, you're going to want to wait until you are done sharing your body with the baby. Once you are done, then you can go about using it. And, if you have questions about different ways to use it, or different ways to start incorporating it into your wellness and postpartum care, definitely reach out to me. You can find me at hello@ekowbody.com or at ekowbody.com. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. And I will be putting all your social media and your websites in the description, so folks can just click on that and get right to you. Again, I thank you so much for taking the time out to speak with us this evening. Please share. Check out the website. Try the products. It is amazing. I'm all about community and building community and networking. So we want to circulate that dollar. We want to, especially when it's good quality and it's wellness driven and self-care inspired. Let's go.
Let's go. Tell your friends to pull up, right?
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Hafeeza, for the work that you were doing and for shedding a light on this very important, ongoing, important conversation and topic for mothers in general, but particularly for mothers of color, knowing the disparate outcomes that are happening for mothers of color, for Black moms during this time. I want to be specific. Sometimes we can be too general and it gets lost in the sauce. Like, shit is real for Black moms right now. And we can be lulled into thinking that everything is okay. But one, we're in the middle of a pandemic, which is not okay. And two, Black women we're just need to be protected in so many different ways. Eyes need to be put on us specifically at this moment, so that we can right some wrongs.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes. Peace and blessings, family. Thank you all for joining us this evening.
Bye.